Hello and welcome to the 2024 Do I Look Like a Gamer International Future Summit by mayamada. mayamada is a UK creative brand using storytelling to develop creativity in others. We make comics, deliver creative workshops with young people across the country, and run the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign. The brand is set within a television network universe featuring an all-animal cast of characters. Each manga title we create tells the story of a different show on the network, and we have a new one coming very soon. And in addition to our events, we also have the showrunner's work experience and personal development program for aspiring creative professionals aged 16 plus, giving them the opportunity to work with the mayamada team across comic production, video games, events, and content creation. I'm Tazziii, the creative director of mayamada, and we've got a lot to share over the next few hours. So, welcome. It's the 2024 Do I Look Like a Gamer International Future Summit. So, this event we launched the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign so that the future generation of talent will know that there is a place for them in video games. This empowers them to be an active part of shaping the future of the video games industry. This is now a yearly initiative, building on the work done last year and continuing to push for diversity in games, culture, and the industry. Each year, we end the campaign with our International Future Summit, an end-of-year live stream that brings together video game fans, aspiring professionals, and current professionals from the world to recap the year's campaign and look ahead at the future of the games industry. I'd like to say thank you to Rocksteady Studios for sponsoring the campaign and helping us ensure we are making events and activities free for participants. And I'd also like to say a special thank you to the Pro Gamers Group UK for supporting in providing equipment, including Streamplify lighting, mics, Nitro concept chairs, which we use for our live streams, our workshops, and the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign events. The contribution from both companies helps us to create better experiences for the campaign, and we're excited to continue to work with them as we push diversity and inclusion in the gaming industry and introduce aspiring creative professionals and creatives to the world of content creation. So, what can you expect from today's event? We will be having some interviews where we'll be speaking to game professionals and practitioners, as well as indie developers, about the state of the games industry and get a look at the projects that they've been working on. You'll also get to hear interesting discussions from a range of perspectives in games. We'll be recapping the year of games and looking at the future of the industry from those that are already in it. We'll also be talking about different games, and you'll be able to see the behind-the-scenes footage of this year's campaign photo shoot that we conducted across London and Birmingham. Plus, you'll be able to see games from our guests and other supporters. As we continue the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign against a backdrop of difficulty in the games industry at this time, we've been focusing on a few key discussions. The impact of diversity, the ongoing job losses, studio and event closures affect everyone, and especially those from marginalized communities who may end up looking for opportunities outside of the games industry, which is a loss for all of us. The perception of instability in this difficult time, it's enough to fight the stereotypes of games being a waste of time and not a serious career option as it is. So that pessimism will only be strengthened by everything that's going on and the risks, telling educators and families that games are not a safe career option for their young people. Losing the creative potential. We would hate to see games become a medium for boring games that are commercially safe but don't add anything interesting that we haven't seen before. So we're looking to shine a light on the people and opportunities that will continue to make the industry and wider culture great in difficult times and beyond. Stick around as we have our headline interview where Nigel will be speaking with Mel Taylor, creative director of MELLOW Games, about indie game development as I play their game Blueberry. But first, check out the behind the scenes look at some of the people in this year's photo campaign, talking about what video games mean to them.
Welcome everyone. If you are just joining us, welcome to the 2024 International Future Summit as part of the Do I Look Like a Gamer video game representation campaign. So as Tazziii just said earlier, we launched a campaign so that future generations of talent will know that there is a place for them in video games, and it's all about empowering them to be an active part of the games industry and wider culture, and shaping the future of what the games industry looks like. So we're making this a yearly initiative and continuing to build on the work that has been done each year. And each year we end the campaign with our future International Future Summit. So this is an end of year live stream bringing together different video game fans, aspiring professionals, current professionals from around the world to recap the year's campaign and look ahead to the future of the industry. So for our opening interview, we have Mel Taylor, who is creative director of MELLOW Games and a studio founded in 2020, which is feels like an achievement in itself. So we're going to find more about Mel, who has more than 10 years of experience in the games industry, and particularly in the field of narrative game design. So we're going to talk about some emotionally resonant gameplay experiences, one of which you can see on the screen right now. So Mel, how are you doing?
Good, thank you very much. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing the whole multitasking thing today, sort of balancing the stream and remembering how to say words. So I think we're managing. What are we like 20 minutes in? I think we're doing okay. So yeah, all good. But thanks for joining us, and thanks for letting us show your game on stream. So we want to talk to you about the game, about your role in it, and just about where we are as an indie developer. But first of all, you were at Games or DevCom specifically earlier this year, which is where I first saw this game. Do you want to tell us about your experience at DevCom, and were you also at Gamescom?
Yes, yeah. So I was there. So Mellow Games is basically mainly myself and a team of freelancers I'm working with. And so in total, we're like around 6 people. We also have a team of psychologists of 3 that we're working with called Behind the Screens, because the themes are like trauma and memory processing. And yeah, regarding DevCom, thankfully my team helped me a lot. And it was really interesting to just see players react to the game, and also just, yeah, what they like, what they didn't like. And we also were at Gamescom, and that was also really, really cool. It was very different from DevCom, because DevCom is sort of more industry focused, right? And Gamescom is more consumer focused. So we actually had a bit more of a consumer perspective the rest of the week at Gamescom. And to sort of tell an anecdote about that, there was one younger girl playing it, and she played the whole demo. And at the end, she was actually in tears. And I had very mixed feelings. I was like sort of comforting her, but it did show me like that the game, yeah, causes emotions. And I guess in one way, that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I mean, tell us about the game, because it is an emotional game. Do you want to tell us like the story, and especially you mentioned you have a team of psychologists, and why that is necessary. So, but tell us what the game is first.
Yeah, so it's basically a journey through a woman's mind from birth to death. And you start out, like after the intro scene, you start out as a little child, or yeah, in the intro, she sort of as an adult decides to face her demons and go back through her memories. And then you start out as the child, and then you climb up a tower, which we sort of call the Tower of Life, and it's just, inside her psyche, and sort of a symbol for what's going on inside her mind. And the higher you climb, the older you get. And on your way up, you find these doors to her memories. And basically, the goal of the game is to collect her memories. And each memory is a mini game. And for each memory, you get a puzzle piece. And then you have to insert all of those pieces into panels. And they are tied to the progress. So for each puzzle piece you insert, you get to unlock a new section of the tower, and you can climb up. And then at some point you find that there's holes in the puzzle, and you have to go back down and replay some older memories, and they change depending on how old she is. Like as a teenager, if you go back to a child memory, then you can understand grown-up language. And then also, like by going back down the tower, you can from a later life phase sort of retrieve the missing memories, and kind of it's as if in a certain area of your brain you're trying to find this lost memory. And that's where the whole trauma thing comes in. And the whole thing was sort of about how I was very interested in how memory processing works. And it's a little bit as if the traumatic memory can't be stored in the same way as a regular memory, so to speak. So yeah, that's the themes. And because we also wanted to treat that this topic with sensitivity that's necessary, I started talking to the Behind the Screens team. They have a German podcast about psychology in games, and they kind of gave us consulting sessions. They always call them sessions as if it's like a therapy session. So playing the game and giving me feedback and advice.
Yeah, and we've got Tazziii playing this live. Any tears yet, Tazziii? How are you finding the game so far?
I mean, right at the beginning, I did find myself getting a little emotion. I think as well, like if you've dealt with like inner demons yourself, like that negative inner self-talk, that I experienced right at the beginning, I was like, okay, this brings up emotions because it's something that I deal with, is like inner negative talk.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yes, It's interesting to see that in a game. It makes you feel seen, I would say.
Okay, all right, that's cool. All right, we'll check in with Tazziii. And so Mel, I mean, on that idea of exploring those inner demons, was I assume this is a story close to you or something you've been through? What was the thinking behind making this type of game?
Yeah, so it's not an autobiographical game, so it's not about me, but certainly there's some like personal experiences in there, and yeah, it's I guess one thing I can say is that I was also interested in talking about being a mom and motherhood in general and how that relates to trauma, because at some point I'm at the age where I was thinking about having kids, and then I was like, well, I don't know if that's a good idea. And also reading about how a lot of traumatic memories can especially come up when you have your own kid, if you had like a traumatic thing happening in your childhood. And yeah, it's a sort of thing also about like the classic, I don't want to be like my parents, and but I also don't know what it's like to be a parent. And
And
so
then
that was
eventually
a
you
lot
become
on
your
my
parent.
mind. Yes, yeah, exactly. And it's like, it sounds like a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it's not unlikely, because that's kind of what you learn. It's like the family you grow up with, in the system you grow up, you kind of learn these patterns. And of course, we all want to not be that cliche, but it's just very, very common if you ever go to therapy. Even like, not even with really, really terrible trauma, just regular stuff is often just taught by or learned by how we mimic our parents, or how they treat each other, also not how only how they treat us. And yeah, I thought that was super interesting. And also just, yeah, and if you're a woman at a certain age, you also get a lot of questions about, will you have kids? And um, yeah, it's sort of society kind of wants you to do that.
Yeah.
If it feels like. And so I was just wanting to put this in the game. And
Okay.
all of this sort of insecurity, and also, I guess, shame about struggling with mental health while being a mom. So, full disclosure, I don't have kids, and I decided not to have kids. But I'm a very happy auntie. My sisters, I have 3 sisters, and 2 of them have kids, and it's like, I'm very, very close to them, and it's very interesting to see their experiences with that, because they grew up in the same family as I did.
Right.
So it's kind of good for me, I guess, to see this a little bit from a different perspective.
Okay. So you got a bit of distance on it, and you can put in as like experiences as well. I feel that.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, I must say, I don't know how people have little kids and also make games. It must be so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Being a
I
parent.
I don't know how people have kids and do anything else. That's like a miracle to me. So that's it. Like the context. That's good to get the context of the game, but then I always feel like games is such a great platform for like putting in those experiences and those feelings. But then it's still a game, and it's still to be played, right? So from the mechanics side of it, what is the game like? What do you do in the game like over and over to progress?
Yeah, so it's a sort of mix between platforming and mini games. And one core feature we have is this blues bar. And that's a bit like an inverted health bar, because it kind of shows her level of depression, if you like. And the goal is to keep it as low as possible. And the higher it gets, the more blue the world becomes. And that's actually, it's not introduced, right? Or actually, it is in the intro scene, but as a kid, it's not there. And then later, there's one incident where it shows up, and then it stays throughout the whole game. And usually, if the blues bar goes up while you're in one of the memories, so in one of the mini games, if it goes up to 100, usually the mini game ends, and then it's kind of like a story fail state. So you can't play it again, but it's like either path A or path B. And depending on how you play the game, there will be different things that happen throughout her life. And also like the game, no matter what you do, it ends with her death, and that's like not a spoiler. It's just about her whole life. But depending on your choices, there will be different characters and even versions of yourself at the end that do different things. So it is like a choices matter kind of game. And this blues
Right.
bar is an important thing. And also sometimes you have blues bars as well for other characters. Like at some point you have this word fight with your mom, and she also has a blues bar, and then they both say mean things to each other.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I guess that blending of like mechanics, so making a game that is interesting and engaging to play, and then bringing in all the wider context. And to be fair, I don't think it's a spoiler to say a game about life ends in death. I mean, spoiler alert for anyone who thought otherwise. But yeah, no, that's cool. So like Tazziii, I see you jumping around different platforms, but then there was also a bit you look like you were in a supermarket.
Yeah, I was like having to, I guess I was having to like fill the shopping cart with stuff that I guess that I wanted.
Okay.
And then at the end, like it all added up, and it was like, oh wait, there's not enough money.
That's a
all the
kid
stuff and had to,
experience.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I like had to put the stuff back on the shelf.
Yeah. That's actually quite triggering.
The blues bar went down as it was put stuff, and then there was like a hugging scene. It was quite cute, but it was like the mum wasn't on the phone. Was on the phone for like the whole time in the supermarket. So there was definitely like a feeling of, feeling ignored as a kid, and like just doing your own thing, and then it coming out at the end that like your own thing was not the right thing. But you had no guidance.
It was supposed to be very much like from the kid's perspective at the beginning. It's sort of like she has her fantasy world, and sometimes it's really fun to be neglected by your parents because you feel like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, get away with stuff.
Yeah, and then at some point it's not so fun anymore. And yeah, and also like that's a scene that you also revisit later as a teenager and get more context to why mom is sad. So the idea was also to kind of have a story that you can piece together as well, where also like the big sort of traumatic thing, it's teased a lot throughout the game, but you only find out at the end. So that's also a kind of narrative mystery part to it. Because this story is told in this weird way where we just sort of jump between the life phases, and yeah, some parts are missing, and then you go back to the missing parts, and then you understand, this is what happened actually there. And that's also a bit like if you have child memories, then sometimes you get more context later, and then you understand why this happened, or why you felt like that, or why your parents behave like that sometimes.
Yeah, I really like that concept of like exploring perspectives in games. I feel like video games, like being a medium where it has that agency and you're doing the things and you're interactive in the story progression, it allows you to explore like, okay, from a child's perspective, yeah, I get this, and then coming back and being like, oh, from the parent's perspective, this was happening and I didn't know. I really like that kind of exploration. And with like the process of making this game, because like I said in the intro, you founded the studio in 2020. That sounds like a challenge.
Actually, technically, I think it was a bit earlier, but
okay.
So the pandemic hit, and I was in Australia at the time, and I was in Brisbane, and we were actually super lucky because there was like a sort of lockdown for 3 months, and then things opened up again. So we in Brisbane, it was actually probably one of the best places to be during a pandemic.
So
Australia in general,
yeah, and New Zealand as well. Apparently, it was cool.
yeah, it was not hit bad at all at the beginning, and it was tough because I was so far away from my family in Germany, and I hadn't lived there for very long, so it was pretty lonely in a way, but also kind of a good time to start a game studio then and do nothing but work on that game as well. I had already started to get to know people, thankfully, and like work with some people on the game and prototype. And at the time, we'd also gotten a prototype grant from Screen Queensland, which is the local screen agency there. So that was a great start to work on the game, sort of starting budget. But yeah, it was really tough to find more funding for it. So a few years later, I moved back to Germany, also because I just wanted to be closer to my family. That was in end of 2021. And yeah, it's also like they didn't have a lot of funding opportunities besides sort of initial prototype funding in Queensland at the time, and no state funding. I think they have that now in Australia, like Screen Australia state funding for games. And in Germany, there's a lot more options. But yeah, that was also really tough because it was not successful at first. When I went back to Germany, all of the publishers said no because it's like a game that can't really make a lot of money. Yeah, and then
where's the live service? Where's the live service?
Yeah, and I don't know, sort of real-time strategy or Souls-like games are a bit, yeah. Publishers are more confident that that will make money instead of like platformers or narrative games that are sort of short single-player experiences of a few hours. And but it did get this serious games grant. I'm now in Cologne in Germany, and it got this North Rhine-Westphalia serious games grant last year. So yeah, we funded most of the this year's development from that, and that was really great. And yeah, I was really glad that we could continue to work on it, but it needs a finished funding now. Still, so it's unfortunately it's not easy to make games, and as an indie you always have to sort of try to push on and try to find new opportunities, and usually there's no like big money deal and then that's it, but you have to kind of keep on keeping on.
Yeah, and I mean that sort of brings me into my last question for this segment, which is just about that process, because we as a brand, we work a lot with young people in workshops and work experience as well, and we talk to like young people who might one day want to make their own games and go through that process. And as you've just described, it is a tough process. So what advice would you have for anyone who's maybe watching or listening later and aspires to make their own game, start their own studio? Like, how would you approach that if you were starting now?
So I really believe in yes, not giving up. I guess that's one of the most important things. I think if I wasn't so stubborn, I would have quit a long time ago. Because it's
I feel you.
But yeah, for me, it was also after I finished studying in Germany, I actually already founded my first studio, which was in Hamburg, and they're called Osmotic Studios. They're still around, and we made a game called Orwell. And it was really similar in terms of development because we had like several sources of funding, and we only just sort of made it to find a publisher at the end and to finish it. And it was really difficult, but it worked out, and it was really good, well received, and we had a good return on investment. So we were lucky, but it was also just, yeah, trying to do whatever we could to continue with the game. And like for me, I think the reason why I'm able to do this is because I really believe in the stuff I do. And that sounds probably very idealistic, but it also means that I have the energy to where I'm thinking, okay, I really love this game. I just want to finish it. And that's why it kind of makes it possible. And it was the same with Orwell, really, because it was something that was really, we thought it was really interesting, and it was about sort of privacy versus security, sort of online data, and also telling a story. And then the other thing is definitely connect with your local community. try to meet as many other developers as possible, play test as much as possible, even if it feels weird and embarrassing because players don't get it at first. That has helped me so much. And also just get the moral support from other developers. That's always really great. And you also often get some advice on how to raise funding for your game. And so in Germany, we have a lot of opportunities. Luckily, state funding and federal funding might come back at some point.
Okay.
And I think the UK has some opportunities as well.
Yeah, we've got some funds for game development. We might be talking about some of that with one of our guests later on. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities, but it is tough, like you say. And I think that having that belief, because that idea of like, if I wasn't so stubborn, I would have quit a long time ago. That's pretty much what I call 2024 for me. So you need some of that as well. So I definitely feel that. I feel that's a good thing to keep in mind. Tazziii, quick ending thoughts on where you are in the game.
Actually, I've just reached a sort of interesting point as I've turned into a teenager. And what was interesting is like while you're in the tower, so the like feeling changes. So the weather goes from being like quite nice and joyful to now it's like a thunderstorm.
Yep. I feel that. Yeah.
And the inner dialogue is like, I hate my life. Life sucks.
Yeah, she's very
Which is a very relatable teenage experience.
Yep. I was in a workshop, did a talk earlier this week and asked a group of teenagers like about what games they're playing. It was like drawing blood from a stone. It's like, guys, you you play games, like just that teenager thing. So it sounds like your game is very relatable, Mel. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing your journey.
Yeah. Very enjoyable.
No, appreciate that. So we've got more games chats to come, so stick with us. Especially we've got some roundtables, we've got some other discussions from people in countries other than the UK. But yeah, we're here throughout the day. We want to hear your thoughts as well, so let us know any games that have made an impact on you this year. Let us know in the chat, on socials, however it works for you. We've got some more game trailers coming up. We've got some more behind the scenes coming from the Do I Look Like a Gamer representation campaign photo shoot. So stick around. We also have our first roundtable coming up after that behind the scenes look, as well as another trailer to come. So we'll see you in a bit. Hey there, I'm Nigel from mayamada. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other great videos we have on the channel. You can also join the Gamepad Discord and check out the next event at gamepad.events. We'll see you soon.